guys, this is the second installment of the poker vlog. Biggest session ever for the vlog so far. That was a hard record to beat. And a bunch of hand histories and also a few little tricks up our sleeve that we tried this session, which I think you might find pretty fun. I've been finding it hard to get paid off in hands, so I'm going out on a bit of a journey today to try and find some stupid hats to take into the poker table and see if being a little bit silly at the table changes anything, or if I have to try a different tact. But we'll give this one a go, see what happens, and report back. I want to use this vlog as a way to keep track of my decision making, get some feedback, improve my game, but ultimately build a bankroll to play in some tournaments, specifically some series tournaments like the Victorian Poker Championships, the Aussie Millions, some of those bigger buy-in tournaments. And I want this to sort of be that journey, and you guys to come along with me on that journey and help me improve my game, as well as hopefully help you improve your game. So to paint you a bit of a picture of what the table dynamics are, I sit down at the table, I instantly recognize 6 of the 9 players at the table, and the other ones that I don't recognize look like regs. So it's just super reg city. It doesn't look like this is going to be a very fun table for a while yet. So we're basically just going to play super straightforward and see how we go. So I'm middle position with pocket kings, pretty sweet looking hand. I have a stack of about 600. And undergun, he covers me. So he opens to 20, we just flat, and we go heads up to a flop. So context here, the table is playing super tight, super straightforward. No one's really mixing it up, no one's really getting in there, so we can pretty much give him credit here. The flop comes 4-5-4. Undergun checks, we lead for 25, and he raises to 75. Here, I think he could do this with something like 6-7 suited. I don't think he's ever doing this with a 4, especially from under the gun. He could even do it with maybe an ace-5 suited, something like that. And also aces, maybe queens, maybe jacks, also in his range there. So we make the call, we see a turn card. The turn brings a queen, and under the gun continues his story and bets 110 here. Considering we have an overpair, there is nothing really out there that's too super scary. We're happy to call this and then see what develops on the river. So we called 110, the river comes out a jack. So now I'm starting to think, all right, what's going on here? If he has aces, queens, jacks, we lose to all of those. What of his value hands do we actually beat? Maybe 10s, maybe 9s. Is he going to check raise those on the flop? Unsure, and is he going to continue them on the turn? So on the river, he actually ships it here for 300. This is a spot where what I should be doing with kings in this spot is actually folding. I know that sounds totally crazy, but of his value hands, I don't really beat anything. Queen's got there, Jack's got there. I don't think he's running this line with 10s or 9s, and he's very often just going to have aces here. So because I hate money, I decided to call and find out that he has exactly aces, and we're stacked pretty early on. So this is maybe an hour into the session. We're already in for 1 bullet. And the interesting part is, if I normally 3-bet this and he would have 4-bet it, we probably would have got stacks in pre-flop. The result would have been exactly the same. Interestingly, I think I could have got away from it on the river there, and I would have liked to find a fold, but I didn't in this particular hand. So this next hand is basically what poker dreams were made of, really. So we're in the big line with pocket 2s. We have a stack of about 525, it's 7-handed, and the table's also still playing pretty snug. It's getting later in the evening, things are starting to warm up a little bit, but nothing super crazy just yet. Pocket 2s in the big blind, under the gun opens to 20, everybody calls, it's 7-handed, every single player calls, and we go 7 ways to a flop. So the flop comes pretty good. The flop comes 8-8 deuce, so we have a full house here. We're pretty stoked with our hand. We want to see what develops 7-handed here. There's enough people in the pot that we don't have to bet here to get any value. We want to try and get other people to bet an 8. or potentially an overpair. We check in the big blind. It checks around to the cutoff, who bets 40. The small blind calls, and we make the call in the big blind. The turn brings a king of clubs. Small blind checks, we check. Cutoff bets 110. This is where the hand starts to get really interesting. Small blind calls the 110. So at this point, I'm thinking at least one of them have an 8. Probably, potentially both of them have an 8. I think we're going to get paid here. How do we get the maximum value? In hindsight, I wish I pumped it up at this point, but I decided to hate money and just flat call, which I actually don't really like because it looks so strong. It looks like exactly what I have. I think we're going to get a lot more value from an 8 if we raise here. And the river brings a queen. Now, small blind checks. So on this river, it's really quite tricky. What should we do here? Should we check and let the cutoff continue betting and see if we can get a call from the small blind before we rip it in? Or should we just lead for value? Small blind checks, I laid out for 200, which that's the rest of the cutoff stack. He ships it in, and then the small blind folds an 8 face up. So unfortunately here, we've missed a bunch of value. We probably would have got more if we ripped it in on the turn, or if we checked the river. The cutoff turns over an 8, we show the pocket deuces, and we scoop this one. So in this next hand, the table dynamics massively changing. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. People are super tired, people are getting loose, people are drunk, there's big stacks on the table, the real poker's starting to happen, and things are really loosening up. So this is basically the moment we've been waiting for to get unstuck, so let's jump into this hand and see what happens. We're on the button with pocket queens, a pretty nice starting hand, and the cutoff opens to 25. We have position here, so we're going to make a fairly small 3-bet and try and get him to call. So I raise it to 60. The big blind then cold calls the 60. This is really interesting because his range is super capped here. Basically, at these stakes and at this game, people usually have a suited Broadway that they're unable to fold because of the jackpot, or they have like 10s or jacks and 9s and they're unsure what to do with them. The big blind calls. The cutoff makes a call, and we go 3 ways to the flop. The flop's a nice one for us. It comes 10, 7, 4, and there's 2 clubs out there. So this is where it starts to get really weird. The big blind leads for 160. Donks into us. We're thinking, what does he have here? Maybe ace 10 suited, maybe jacks, maybe 9s. We're very happy to make this call, so the cutoff folds, we make the call. The turn brings a 7, so it pairs the board. The straights don't get there, the flushes don't get there. We're feeling pretty safe with this hand. Big blind leads for 225. Thinking this is pretty sweet. We can get value from a bunch of different hands here, specifically ace 10 and jacks, and maybe even 9s from this opponent. So we just decide to rip it in for 625 total, and he snap calls. So at this point I'm like, whoa, maybe does he have 10s here? We turn a hand over immediately. The river comes out a king of clubs, so the flush gets there, and we're good. So we scoop this one. It's a pretty big pot. It's helped us get unstuck and build a bit of a stack to try and play a few more pots later. We're still playing the 2-5-10, so the game is playing absolutely huge. We're on the button with pocket aces, feeling very good about this one. And the cutoff, he raises to 60. So I think there's one limp in between. We 3-bet to 150. And he makes the call. The flop comes out 5-2-3 rainbow. So we're pretty stoked with our hand here. We beat all of the overpairs. He checks, we bet 100, and he rips in another 300 on top. So about 400 total. Before he's even put his chips in the middle, I snap him off and he says, "Why did you have to grab the chips so fast?" He's definitely behind at this point, and we're pretty happy with our hand. It runs out, board runs out, pairs. The river brings a jack, I think. And he says, you're good, and mucks his hand. He later tells us that he had pocket 8s, so we had him absolutely crushed there, and we scoop a pretty nice pot. 5 a.m, I'm super tired, I can barely function, so I think it's time to call it a night. So we decide to rack up and get out of there. We're in for 1,000, and we cashed out for 2,261 for a profit of $1,261. Thanks guys for watching. I'd love your feedback. Put something in the comments and let me know what you think. Let me know where you'd like this to go. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. And please like and subscribe and help get a few more people watching the channel. Awesome. Thanks, guys.